refusing to not plat to then I discovered that just a couple hours after Charlie was assassinated, he'd put out another cryptic tweet that just said public execution. So again, the night before, he quote tweets a 12-year-old Trump tweet without any context saying public execution. Then again, after Charlie's assassinated, the next day, he just quotes those words again, public execution, tweets those out again. What's that all about? Very interesting. So I put all that in a thread. It went viral. Candace picked it up. She quote tweeted it and says like, whoa, what's going on here? What's possible context is this? So it went viral last night, through the night, all day today. And then she of course featured a prominent response from Yashar Ali, who called me a neo-Nazi and everything. And so she featured that on her show today, and she basically went through in more detail. She didn't go through my thread, Ryan, but basically the substance of my thread, I think, I don't know, maybe that helped form the basis of her show. I don't know, but like she went in. My point is she went into that whole area, that topic of Josh Hammer and his video appearances and the lies he's been telling, and just all of this and these cryptic tweets. She went into all of that in detail today. So yeah, that was pretty cool. But I feel like, we've been pulling at a lot of threads for several weeks now. And I think that we've tripped over a landmine of some kind here, because we have caught a principal person here in a lie, and actually in several lies, in a set of several lies that turn out to be material lies. Because up until now, people have like, well, what possible motive would Israel have for killing Charlie Kirk? And there's been this argument, was Charlie turning? Was he not turning? And the allegations are that no, of course not. He was not turning. And even Josh Hammer was out there on these podcasts saying, look, I had this meeting the night before he was assassinated, and he was having this call with us, and he was trying to get his talking points down to debate these college kids. And, I would know if he was turning. Well, that was a lie. He did know that he was turning. He knew it from the day before. He didn't tell us. He wasn't forthcoming about that. And instead, he chose to lie about Candace Owens and Tucker Carlson repeatedly, many times over the last month. So, of course, the entire internet, all of Twitter instantly understood the gravity of what we discovered here and went viral. And of course, then his defenders, it took them a while to get caught up, but late last night, throughout the night, and then into today,
If you don't
they have
believe
absolutely
creating
mobilized
SOPs
their
can
little
take
counter
seconds
push
instead of hours,
to try to say that, well, he was just talking about Irina Zarutska. That was the context here. It was just all about Irina Zarutska. Well, number one, again, as we said, he's allegedly on holiday today. He's not checking his electronics. So if that were really his intent, how does anybody know? He's not in contact with anybody, right? He's on holiday, not using his electronic devices. As Mel said, what is he using? Carrier pigeons, right? So basically, the Hasbara army received talking points from somebody that said, we have to quash this, we have to defend this. And so those were the talking points that went out, and by now probably many of you have seen some retweet where he allegedly retweeted some tweet about Irina Zarutska. Okay, let's back up though, Ryan. Let's back up a little bit, and let's back up to September 9th, September 10th, the days leading up to the Charlie Kirk assassination. Some of you will recall that, well, let's just state some facts. Irina Zarutska was killed on August 22nd, and her killer was arrested same day, okay? Then it received virtually no news coverage at all until the Jewish spy account End Wokeness picked it up on August 25th and made a post about it. It went semi-viral. It had like 4 million views on like August 25th. And it kind of died down after that until around September 5th, when the state of North Carolina, whose governor's the Jew, Josh Stein, released video of the assassination, of this killing, right? And it started going viral, and it started getting pumped up really, really big. And people at the time, it was just skyrocketing, right? It was just starting to go mega viral. It was generating massive anti-black outrage, pro-white anti-black outrage all over the internet. Everybody was talking about it. Even Ben Shapiro, people like Ben Shapiro was tweeting hard about it. He was covering it. He was tweeting about it repeatedly. And I remember at the time, people were curious, Ryan. They're like, wait a second, this is going. They saw sort of like a Shiloh Hendrix rage, like height
all over the
of
internet.
energy.
Everybody was
Around it.
talking
People
about
were
it.
like, wait,
Even
what's
Ben
going on?
Shapiro,
Is this being
people like Ben
artificially
Shapiro was
boosted?
tweeting
And if
hard
it
about it. He
is,
was covering it. He was
why
tweeting
would it
about
be
it repeatedly, being
And I remember
artificially
at the
boosted.
time
And
people were noticing that
a lot of these
were
Hasbara
curious,
accounts,
Ryan. They're
Ben
like, wait a
Shapiro,
second,
Libs of
this is
TikTok,
going.
and
They saw
wokeness.
sort of like a
A
Shiloh
lot of
Hendrix
these big
rage, like
pro-Israel,
height
pro-Zionist
of
Jewish
energy.
accounts.
People
Everybody was
around it.
talking
People
about
were
it.
like, wait,
Even
what's
Ben
going on?
Shapiro.
And I mentioned Ben Shapiro because just a few months ago, earlier this year, when the Shiloh Hendrix thing happened and was blowing up, he actually was scoffing at it. He was denigrating it. He was scoffing it. He was dismissing it. But now all of a sudden, like he's completely reversed with Irina Zarutska, and he was pumping it hard. And he was joining the fray, and it was like a big deal that these Hasbara accounts were covering. So I noticed that too. Other people were noticing it. We didn't know what to make of it. And then, of course, the next day, on the 10th, Charlie Kirk is assassinated. And I noticed immediately that a bunch of Jewish Hasbara accounts, Laura Loomer, Aaron Wexler, other accounts, they themselves started connecting the Irina Zarutska killing to the Charlie Kirk assassination. And they were calling it a war on white people. They were calling it a war on Western civilization. They were saying things like Libs of TikTok said, this is war, you know, Chaya Rachik, this is war. And they themselves were connecting those two killings. And I said, well, wait a second. And then by this point, people were calling it, saying it was the left. This crazy loony leftist had killed Charlie, and this crazy black guy enabled by the left was responsible for Irina's death. And so that same day, there was this massive propaganda push to launch this war on the radical left, who was just getting out of control. And I said, okay, wait a second. All of these Jewish Hasbara accounts were pumping up the Irina Zarutska slaying. Then they themselves were connecting that to the Charlie Kirk assassination, and they were using it to call for a war on the radical left. And polls had just come out showing that like 80% of the left, 80% of the Democrat Party thinks there's a genocide going on in Gaza, right? And so like there is no support for Israel on the left, and in fact, most of the organized opposition to Israel comes from the left. And so I'm like, wait a second, what if this is? And I made tweets about this on that day, Ryan. We've talked about it spaces previously. What if Israel is boosting, this? What if they're propagandizing this assassination? Them and come together in unification on the right to take out like the crazy wacko left, and that this might be Mike Cernovich was tweeting this, Matt Walsh was tweeting, other people were tweeting this, that we just need to have a truce and the right has to come together and we have to declare war on the radical left. So those were the talking points on September 9th and 10th and 11th. They were pumping these same accounts were pumping the Irina Zarutska slaying pretty darn big. So what's interesting now we fast forward to Josh Hammer, and they're trying to use the Irina Zarutska context, saying, well, this is what he was talking about. This is the context. This is what he's tweeting about, but there's no evidence of it, number one. Number two, he's on holiday, not talking to anybody allegedly, so we can't know that. So it's another propaganda campaign. And what they've done is they've really just reintroduced the same set of talking points that they were utilizing on the 9th and 10th and 11th. So they're just going back to their playbook. And what it to me it suggests, it just solidifies that yes, okay, that was their operation. They intended to connect those two deaths together to launch this war on the left, right? And in so doing, it would unify the fracturing that's happening on the right in MAGA over chiefly, amongst other things, like the Epstein files and what's perceived as this super pro-Israel, Israel first policy in this administration. And a unified right going to war against the left would end that fracturing. It would place aside the right's own objections over AIPAC and Israel and Epstein and Iran. and it would organize us in a war against the left that would take out the organized opposition to Israel on the left. And of course, on the same day that Charlie was assassinated, they tried to introduce like more laws uh, to go after anti-Semites on the right. So at the same time, they were trying to organize this war on the radical left. They were trying to pass legislation and other policies that would hurt anti-Semites on the right. I found that very, very interesting that they were launching this two-pronged campaign that would simultaneously take out the organized opposition to Israel on the left and the organized opposition to Jewish supremacy on the right at the very same time. And they were using the connection of Irina Zarutska and Charlie Kirk together, basically as their fulcrum to accomplish and a war. So when they reintroduced that last night today to defend Josh Hammer, it just made me even more suspicious. And I thought, well, you're not actually debunking anything here from my perspective. What you're actually doing is you're actually just solidifying and strengthening my suspicions about this propaganda war that you've been fighting, trying to utilize and exploit Irina Zarutska and Charlie Kirk to your own ends. Now, that's where I